Hi, and welcome back to Pinky Boo Hauntings. I'll be your witchy host, Shy, and I'll be your guide to all things paranormal, weird, and spooky. Guess what we're doing today? Well, I guess you can, 'cause you read the title, but still, I'm happy to announce deep dives are back. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. I do enjoy these as much as I do the Reddit stories after all, and I feel bad not being able to bring them back sooner. But as you know, things got crazy during the holidays, and I needed to relieve some stress somewhere. So the easiest thing to do was take a break from deep dives and the research that came with them. But now we can bring them back. For today's episode, I figured we'd do one that has interested me for as long as I can remember. And if you're into the paranormal, which I would hope you are if you're here, you have probably heard of this one too. But don't worry, while there will be information we've all heard before in this, I think I found some that isn't as well known, at least as far as I've ever seen or heard. So I hope you stay because you might be shocked with this new information. Who knows? Maybe there was another suspect hiding in plain sight this whole time. So let's get into this. Imagine, if you will, you have bought a piece of land in a different state. This land is going to be your new home and your new start in life. This is both a scary and exciting time for the whole family, but you push past the nerves and make your way to this plot of land. You build your family's home and start work on your farm. The family seems to be settling into the new town quite well. You've made friends with the neighbors, and the kids have found friends of their own in their new school. Your farm is growing. Everything seems right with the world. Your family even seems to be loved by those around you. The years go by, and this new state has welcomed you with open arms. You and your family truly feel at home in this place you have chose as your own. Everything is right with the world, or so it seems. Someone in this town has built a resentment for you and your family. They aren't happy with something you have done, and now they seek revenge. Slowly, this once peaceful home is turning into your personal hell. This vengeful spirit has made it their life mission to not only torment you, but your family for generations to come as well. They attack your family almost every night. They won't let any of you know peace ever again. Not until this being has taken your life. Have you guessed it yet? Well, I guess you have because of the title. But if you didn't read it before clicking on this episode, we're talking about the only known case of a paranormal being killing a person. We're talking about the Bell Witch. But before we can do that, we need to first take a trip back into the past to learn about the family the witch was targeting. The family the Bell Witch is named after. We start our journey back into the past, all the way back into 1804 in North Carolina, where the Bell family was packing up all of their belongings and getting ready to go on a long trip across states to Tennessee. While traveling in their wagon, they had plenty of time to imagine what their new home would be like and how the town and the residents would be like as well. Once they made it to what is now known as Adams, Tennessee, they got to building their new home. Their 320 acres of farmland lay next to the Red River, and neighboring houses were miles apart from each other. Adams was a small town of only 624, and John and Lucy Bell lived a quiet, peaceful life with their family for 13 years. It was in 1817 when everything changed. One night, John Bell was walking out through his farmland. While it's unclear what he was doing out there, whether it was just to take a night walk or he had heard something, he ended up in his cornfield. In the cornfield between the rows was a strange, dog like creature. This creature had the body of a dog, but the head of a rabbit. This creature scared John. Unsure of what it was, and he fired a shot off at it, both out of protection and probably out of fear as well. John's blood ran cold as he watched this thing vanish into thin air. This part isn't really said in any of my research, but I'm sure that he ran back to his cabin after seeing that and told no one about it. And I don't blame him. How do you explain something like that? People will either think you're crazy or, especially back then, think you are possessed by the devil. So it isn't known if he said anything at the time of his encounter. Eventually, the rest of his family would come to believe as well. You see, the Bell Witch didn't just target John, but the whole family. I have to say, if the witch was really just after John, they should have left the rest of the family alone. Because if they had it out for him, why not make him look crazy and basically separate him from the rest of his family? But that's not what the witch did. They instead went after the whole family. It seemed that the attacks were small things at first, not even really attacks per se. It was more like they were just messing with the family. The family's first encounters were things that could have been just brushed off, like the sound of gnawing on their bedpost. But when they would look for a rat causing the noise, there was nothing. No creature could be found that was making that noise. They also reported hearing loud knocking at night, as well as the sound of chains dragging. They even claimed to have their blankets ripped off of them as they slept, as well as having their pillows tossed from their beds. All of these events, when investigated, had no explanation for the sounds and strange happenings. The Bell Witch really went out of their way to keep this family from sleeping, or having a good night's rest, at least. From there, things escalated because this is where the real attack started. The witch would strike their face, pinch them, and pull their hair, and the Bell Witch would torment the whole family. But the two that got the brunt of these attacks were John himself and his daughter Betsy. Betsy had her hair pulled and was beaten many times. These beatings were apparently so awful they would leave the girl unconscious. The attacks also left her with welts and handprints on her face and body. Try to keep Betsy in the back of your mind. She might become more important when we get into the theory I have about the Bell Witch and who they could be. These events kept going on as the witch seemed to get stronger. It's unsure if the Bell Witch was using the torment as a way to feed off of the family's energy, or if they were just building up their power over time. But what we do know is as time went on, things got worse for the family. Eventually, the family started hearing a disembodied voice speaking to them within the house. This was the voice of the witch. At first, it was small whispers, so faint the Bell family could hardly tell what was being said, though they said it sounded like the voice of a weak old woman singing hymns. But, just like everything else, the whispers built up until the witch was speaking clearly to the family, though this being was nowhere to be seen in the house. The witch proclaimed that they were Kate bats. The neighbor of the Bells who felt cheated by John in a land purchase. I couldn't find anything to back this up, but I assume the land in question that she felt cheated on was the land the Bell family currently owns and lives on. Again, I have no evidence for this, but it does make sense, doesn't it? Maybe she was trying to buy up that land for herself, and John came in and took it from underneath her. And from there, she went into her villain era, plotting to run the family off so that she could get the land that she feels was stolen from her. Or, who knows, maybe she was being framed. Especially if it was well known within the area that she was bitter about the lost land. Whoever this voice truly was, it was becoming louder and louder. It became so loud and clear that the family could hear the voice within every room of the house. The voice of the witch would insult and threaten John repeatedly and continue to speak to all of the family. They even told the family, I am a spirit. I once was very happy, but I have been disturbed and made unhappy. There was also claims that the witch would sing hymns, quote scripture, and carry on intelligent conversations. It was even said that they quoted word for word two sermons that were preached on the same day, miles apart. Somewhere in all of this, the Bell Witch also vowed to kill John. Whoever this is, Kate or someone else, they clearly were pissed about something and wanted to make the family suffer as much as they could, giving the family no peace even in their own home, the one place they should feel safe. During all of this, John vowed his family to secrecy. And why wouldn't he? This is the 1800s after all. I doubt this is something you just want to come out and tell people. While the family was the main target of the witch's torment, they weren't the only ones to feel the wrath of the Bell Witch. The enslaved workers reported encounters with the witch as well. That's right, the Bell family had slaves. I know, it's not surprising, especially for the time period, but still. I was shocked to find out they had them. Mostly because when the show would talk about the Bell Witch and the Bell family, they loved to portray them as this family that lived on a small plot of land and in a small cabin. I didn't know they had a large plot of land or a farm until I went digging for this episode. So I definitely wasn't expecting to find out this awful information. Turns out the Bell family kinda sucks. Sorry for that, but I needed to get that out because I didn't know any of this. And I've heard this story many times in my life. Anyways, one of the slaves was named Dean. He had reported to John his encounters with the witch, saying how he came face to face with a dog-like creature that sometimes even had two heads. Dean claimed that this creature was the witch. After he came up against the witch a few times, his sweet wife made something to help keep him safe. They called it a witch bell that he carried around with him to protect him from harm. What is a witch ball, you might be asking? Well, I didn't know either. I had to look it up because all I could think of was a ball that he would throw at the creature. I think because it's dog-like, I couldn't help imagining Dean playing fetch with the witch. But no, a witch ball is actually a glass ball that typically has herbs, crystals, salts, and flowers in it. It helps ward off malevolent spirits and capture negative energy. Obviously, there is more to it than that, but that's the basic rundown of it. It's a protection spell, and it did seem to help keep him safe from the witch and that creature. Which is a good thing because the witch needs to leave them alone. They didn't ask to be there and have no choice but to be there. So if you're going to punish the family, punish only them and leave the enslaved people alone. The enslaved people weren't the only ones, though, outside of the Bell family to experience the terror of the Bell Witch. Even though John swore the family to secrecy, he decided to tell his close friend and neighbor, James Johnson. James was skeptical of the family's troubles at first. He was one of those people that needed to see it before he could believe it himself. So James decided to have a sleepover at the Bell's house, bringing his wife along with him. I hope she was just curious as well and didn't just get dragged into a horrifying situation against her will, because that wouldn't be very nice for her husband to do. The night was peaceful, and the Bells and the Johnsons were enjoying each other's company. I'm sure James was making jokes about how the visit was uneventful, but now it was time for everyone to retire to their beds. It was here that they were subjected to the same torment as the Bell family. The Johnsons' bed covers were yanked from them, just as the other family had experienced. The witch also slapped James. The man, upset, yelled out, "In the name of the Lord, who are you and what do you want?" He didn't get a response, and the rest of the night was peaceful once more. I'm unsure who he was speaking to after this event happened, but he told someone that it was an evil spirit, the kind the Bible talks about. Sometime after this, it would seem that the word had spread, and people began to camp out on the Bell family's farm. They became curious of what was going on and wanted to see the paranormal events for themselves. There was another family friend that had also experienced something. His name was William Porter. He was said to grab the unseen witch, trying to throw it into the fire, though he wasn't able to because of the weight and the smell. So while the Bells, especially John and Betsy, were the main targets of the witch's attack, she didn't hold back on others that visit the home as well. Word continued to spread about the witch and even made it all the way to Nashville, where a future president lived. Back when he was still just a general, Andrew Jackson became fascinated with the story of the Bell Witch and wanted to see it for himself. The Bells actually had a connection with Jackson. John Bell Jr. and his brothers, Drew and James, fought under General Jackson in the Battle of New Orleans, so it was probably easy for him to get the Bells to say yes to his visit. Jackson came with an entourage in 1819. It consisted of several men, well-groomed horses, and a large wagon. As the group came close to the house, their wagon jolted to a stop. When the men went to investigate, they found that the wagon was stuck in a muddy creek bed and the horses were unable to pull it out. Jackson proclaimed in that moment, "By the Eternal, boys, that must be the Bell Witch." I think it's cute that he's this excited about seeing the Bell Witch. I don't think I would, with how they're attacking people, but clearly it excited him to the point that even getting stuck in the mud was something to him. But maybe he was onto something, because after saying this was the Bell Witch, a disembodied female voice told Jackson he could proceed and that she'd see them later in the evening. After this, the wagon began to move again. If this was really the witch's doing, I doubt that wagon was actually stuck in the mud. If anything, it just seemed stuck because the horses were scared to move. Or if this witch was as strong as they seem, maybe they were holding the wagon back from moving. Or maybe it really was just stuck in the mud and came loose at the same time the voice told them they could go. No matter the real reason for the wagon being freed, it did become free, and they proceeded to the Bell's home. While his entourage was setting up the tents in the yard, Jackson told old war stories to the Bells, I presume. Everyone was having a good time, and while everyone was talking, one man claimed to be a witch tamer, whatever that means. After several hours, the so-called witch tamer, pulled out a shiny pistol with a silver bullet. He claimed that it could kill any evil spirit, and nothing has happened because it was too scared. Now, I don't know about you, but if there was a pissed off spirit around, the last thing I would be doing is going around trying to antagonize it. At least one that seemed as strong as the Bell Witch was. But this man would have to learn this lesson the hard way. After talking all of that crap about how the Bell Witch was scared of him, he began screaming and jerking his body around. He claimed that he was being stuck with pins and beaten severely. They should. You shouldn't go around talking shit about things you don't understand. Eventually, he said he was kicked in the rear and sent him out the front door. The entity said that he was yet another fraud in Jackson's party. The witch also said that they would identify the other. This show of power by the Bell Witch scared Jackson's men, and they ended up leaving. Jackson, on the other hand, wanted to stay. He wanted to know who this other fraud was. While I respect him for being brave enough to stay after what he just saw, it would seem that that bravery did not last long. What happened next is unknown, but Jackson and his men were seen in Springfield early next morning, heading back to Nashville. Some even allege Jackson said, "I would rather fight the British at New Orleans than fight the Bell Witch." Not gonna lie, but it seems to me that Jackson got what he wanted. It just wasn't the answer he expected. What if the witch said he was also a fraud and outed him for a dark secret he didn't want others to know about? I don't know, it just seems weird that he decided to leave early after talking about staying. Whatever happened there, it definitely spooked Jackson enough to never talk about it again, or even go back. The attacks and harassment went on nonstop for 3 years. Through these years, John's physical health started to decline, leaving him bedridden at the end. It was in December of 1820 that John was found dead in his bed. Next to his bed, the family found a vial of unknown liquid that wasn't there before. John Jr. took this vial and put 2 drops of this liquid on a pet cat's tongue. The cat was said to jump up, rolled over mid-air, and was dead when it hit the floor. I don't think you needed to do that, but okay. I think it was pretty clear that that vial had some kind of poison in it. The cat didn't need to die to come up with that conclusion. But after killing the cat for no reason, the witch spoke to the family, saying, "I gave old Jack a big dose of that last night, which fixed him." John Jr. threw the vial into the fire, and the liquid bursted into blue flames. John Bell's death is the only known documented case in U.S. history where the death was attributed to the paranormal. Even after his death, the family didn't know peace. The Bell Witch was said to join them. John's funeral was said to be one of the largest in Robertson County. It was so large that people attended for miles around, and 3 preachers did eulogies. It would seem that John was a beloved member of the community. So while others were mourning his death, it was said that the witch could be heard laughing and singing drinking songs in a happy tone. They didn't stop singing until all of the mourners left. After John Bell was put to rest, the witch pretty much stopped their attacks on the family. Now, let's get on to the less known story about the Bell family, and it might seem a little disconnected at first, but I swear it made something click that never made sense to me before. Oh, and before we get into this, I want to make it clear. I think Kate Batts was framed. The reason I won't call the witch a she is because I don't believe Kate is the witch. Do I believe she was mad at John for screwing her over? Yes. I just don't believe the witch's attacks were caused by her. I think she was just an easy scapegoat because of her bitterness towards John. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's talk about Betsy. Betsy had fallen head over heels for a young man named Joshua Garner who lived nearby. He was also very much in love with her as well. So, of course, their families gave them permission to get married. The young couple was in bliss, and everyone seemed to be happy for their engagement. That is, except for one person. The strange entity that has been haunting the Bell family for years had disapproved of this union. The witch demanded repeatedly that Betsy end her engagement to Joshua. Now, why would the witch care about Betsy's marriage to this young man, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. There was a man that was Betsy and Joshua's former school teacher. This man's name was Professor Richard Powell. He was known to be interested in Betsy Bell for a while, and even was interested in marrying her. Yep, that's right. Her former teacher wanted to marry her. Now, while that's gross, that doesn't really mean it's connected to the witch. But here's where I started questioning things. See, Hal was well versed in a lot of things, but the one that caught my eye was that he was a student of the occult. Well, that doesn't mean he's a bad guy. That, on top of the fact that he was interested in a girl 11 years his junior, and she was now getting married, I can't help side eyeing this guy. Especially since, besides John, Betsy was one of the main focuses of the witch's attacks. The attacks also only started 13 years after living in this town. For me, it all just kind of lines up. Now, if that didn't make you convinced that maybe Kate was framed, and instead the witch could have been Pal, there are more facts that could back this up as well. See, Betsy and Joshua were harassed nonstop when they were together. They couldn't go to the river, the fields, or the caves to play. The entity wouldn't give up until this engagement was finally broken off. And that's what the two did. They couldn't take the nagging from the witch anymore, and finally ended their engagement. Not long after they broke things off, the witch came to Lucy Bell and told her that they were leaving but would return in 7 years. And another not so fun fact I found out while looking a little deeper into Betsy Bell was that while she didn't marry Joshua, she did end up getting married. And would you like to know what her name was at the end of her life? Elizabeth Betsy Bell Powell. That's right, the same last name as Powell himself, because Betsy ended up with her former teacher. While I know we'll probably never truly know the identity of the Bell Witch, I must say, with all of the facts we know about this family and the supernatural attacks they went through, things could easily fall into place to pin it on Richard Powell. I know Kate Batts very openly hated John Bell, but why target Betsy more so than the other kids? But if it was Powell, it could make more sense. Though he outwardly wished the couple well, who's to say he wasn't bitter behind closed doors? Especially since he got what he wanted in the end. And it all kind of clicks for me. What about you guys? Do you think it makes sense, or am I just seeing something that isn't there? Whoever the Bell Witch is, I do and will always believe that Kate Batts was framed for this crime, and that whoever was behind this probably called upon a negative spirit to torment the Bell family. Whatever the case, the Bell Witch kept their word and left the family alone for 7 years, only to return to John Bell Jr., where they discussed the origin of life, civilization, Christianity, and the need for a major spiritual awakening. The Bell Witch also made some predictions about the Civil War and about major events. The witch hung around for 3 weeks and disappeared again, promising this time to visit his closest descendant in 107 years. It's unclear if they actually visited this descendant, but John Bell Sr.'s great grandson, Dr. Charles Bailey Bell, wrote a book about the Bell Witch just a year before the promised date of the entity's return. So, did he get a visit from the witch, or did his book somehow appease the spirit? We'll unfortunately never know, because Charles seemed to be silent about the witch after writing this book. But yeah, that's the story of the Bell Witch. Were you surprised by my conclusion on who could be the Bell Witch? I don't think I've ever heard much about Powell, if anything, before doing this research. So, as I was digging deeper, everything just seemed to slowly come together. Finding out Betsy ended up with that man in the end just seemed to be the last nail in the coffin for me. Even if you're still not convinced he could have been behind this, I hope I could clear up Kate Bat's name, if nothing else. Guys, this was a long one for me, but I guess if I'm gonna bring back deep dives, I might as well come in with a bang. At least, I hope it was. And if you did enjoy, please rate and review the podcast wherever you're listening to this, as well as like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Maybe even bring in some others into our coven so that we can grow. And of course, if you have a story you would like to share, please send them in. The email will be in the show notes in the description below. But for now, the coven is adjourned. See you next time. Bye.